Good evening, friends, and welcome in. It's wonderful to have you here tonight. I'm glad you chose to spend this hour with me. If this is your first time here, welcome. And if you're returning, thank you. If you find yourself enjoying what we explore together, I would greatly appreciate it if you subscribed and liked the video. Your support helps more than you might realize, and I'm always curious to hear your thoughts. Where in the world are you listening from tonight? I like to imagine all of you, scattered across time zones, all settling into this same quiet space. Now let's ease in and learn about the physiology of whale breathing. Tonight, we're going to do something a little different. We're going to descend. Not into sleep just yet, though that will come naturally enough, but into the ocean. Specifically, we're going to follow the breath of a creature so magnificently adapted to its world that it makes our own respiratory talents look rather modest by comparison. We're going to explore the physiology of whale breathing and deep diving. And I promise you, there's something profoundly calming about understanding how these animals move between two worlds, the world of air and the world of water, with such elegant biological machinery. Think about your own breath for a moment. Don't change it, just notice it. The rise and fall of your chest. The quiet exchange happening right now in your lungs. You breathe roughly 12 to 20 times per minute without thinking about it. Your body manages this automatically. A rhythm so constant you forget it's even happening. Now imagine breathing only once every hour. Imagine taking a single breath, then disappearing beneath the surface of the ocean for 60 minutes or more, carrying that breath with you into darkness and pressure that would crush most living things. This is what whales do, and understanding how requires us to rethink almost everything we assume about breathing. Let's start at the surface, quite literally. When a whale rises from the depths, the first thing you notice, if you're lucky enough to witness it, is the blow. That iconic spray of mist that signals a whale's presence. It's not water, despite what many people think, it's breath. Old, used breath that's been held at depth, now explosively released. The spray you see is mostly water vapor, mucus, and the condensation that happens when warm air from the whale's lungs meets cold ocean air. It can shoot 15 meters into the sky from a blue whale. 15 meters. That's a 5-story building made of exhalation. But here's what makes this moment remarkable from a physiological standpoint. A whale doesn't breathe the way you do. When you exhale, you replace only about 10 to 15% of the air in your lungs. You're a shallow breather, physiologically speaking. Most of your lung volume stays put, breath after breath. It's inefficient, but it works well enough for a creature that breathes constantly. A whale, by contrast, exchanges up to 90% of its lung volume in a single breath. 90%. In one explosive exhalation and one deep inhalation, a whale refreshes almost its entire respiratory system. This takes about 2 seconds for most large whales. 2 seconds to exhale and inhale what might need to last an hour. The blowhole itself is a marvel worth pausing over. It sits atop the whale's head, which seems like an odd place for a nose until you realize the genius of it. A whale is a mammal that returned to the ocean millions of years ago. Its ancestors walked on land and breathed air through nostrils at the front of their faces, just like yours. But evolution, working over millions of years, migrated those nostrils backward and upward, repositioning them to the crown of the skull. This means a whale can breathe while almost entirely submerged. Just the top of the head breaks the surface. Efficient, elegant. The blowhole of baleen whales like humpbacks and blues has 2 openings, like 2 nostrils. Toothed whales like sperm whales have just 1. Either way, the blowhole has muscular flaps that seal it completely underwater, preventing even a drop from entering the lungs. Now let's talk about what happens in those 2 seconds of breathing. Speed matters here. A whale's respiratory rate at the surface can seem almost frantic compared to the languid image we have of these gentle giants. A grey whale might take 3 or 4 breaths in quick succession, each one a powerful exchange. This rapid breathing serves a specific purpose. The whale isn't just replacing oxygen, it's loading up on it, storing it in ways and places we don't, and simultaneously, it's dumping carbon dioxide far more efficiently than we ever could. This is preparation. The whale is packing for a journey into an environment where breath doesn't exist. Here's where things get interesting. Physiologically, you store oxygen primarily in your lungs. About 1/3 of your oxygen reserves are sitting in your lung tissue right now, waiting to diffuse into your bloodstream. Another 1/3 is bound to hemoglobin in your red blood cells, circulating through your body. The final 1/3 is stored in muscle tissue, bound to a protein called myoglobin. This is a decent system for a creature that breathes constantly. But for a whale, lungs are actually the least important oxygen storage site. Counterintuitive, isn't it? A whale stores only about 10 to 15% of its oxygen in its lungs. The majority, up to 40% or more, is stored in the blood and another 40% in the muscles. Let's unpack this. Whales have significantly more blood than you do relative to their body size. A blue whale's blood might account for 10 to 15% of its total body weight. Yours is about 7%. More blood means more hemoglobin, and hemoglobin is what carries oxygen. But whales take this a step further. Their red blood cells are more densely packed with hemoglobin than yours. Each drop of whale blood carries more oxygen than each drop of yours. And their muscles, those massive muscles that power their flukes through thousands of miles of ocean, are absolutely saturated with myoglobin. Myoglobin is what makes whale meat so dark, almost black. It's a protein that grabs oxygen and holds it in muscle tissue, creating a deep reserve that can be tapped during a dive. Think of it this way. Your body is like someone going on a day hike with a water bottle. A whale's body is like an expedition team with water bottles, hydration packs, water barrels strapped to their backs, and a camel. Multiple redundant systems, all devoted to storing the one resource that matters most underwater: oxygen. Now the whale dives. The descent begins, and immediately a cascade of physiological changes sweeps through its body. Changes so profound that they would kill you. But for the whale, they're as natural as your decision to pull a blanket over yourself at night. The first change is the most dramatic. The whale's heart rate drops, not by a little, by a lot. At the surface, a grey whale's heart might beat 20 to 30 times per minute. During a dive, that can drop to 4 to 6 beats per minute. 4 beats per minute. Imagine your heart beating once every 15 seconds. This is called bradycardia, and it's one of the most important adaptations for diving. Why slow the heart? Because every heartbeat costs oxygen. The heart muscle itself needs oxygen to contract. By slowing the heart dramatically, the whale conserves oxygen. But it can't just slow the heart without consequences. Blood still needs to reach vital organs, so the whale does something remarkable. It redistributes blood flow. Blood vessels to the extremities, to the flippers and flukes, constrict dramatically. Blood flow to the skin decreases. Even blood flow to many internal organs is reduced. The body essentially says, for the next hour, we're running on essential services only. Blood is shunted primarily to the brain and heart, the two organs that absolutely must receive oxygen continuously. Everything else can wait. This is called peripheral vasoconstriction, and you actually do a milder version of this when you're cold. Your body pulls blood away from your fingers and toes to protect your core temperature. But a whale takes this to an extreme that borders on the miraculous. Organs that in you would suffer irreversible damage from oxygen deprivation can function just fine in a whale under reduced blood flow for an hour or more. As the whale descends, pressure increases. This is where things get truly challenging. For every 10 meters of depth, pressure increases by 1 atmosphere. At 100 meters, the pressure is 10 times what it is at the surface. At 1,000 meters, a depth that sperm whales regularly reach, the pressure is 100 times surface pressure. This is enough pressure to compress air spaces to a fraction of their surface volume. Your lungs at 1,000 meters would be compressed to the size of your fists if you could somehow survive to that depth, which you couldn't. But whales have evolved a brilliant solution to this problem. They actually collapse their lungs. Intentionally. As a whale dives, the increasing pressure compresses its rib cage, which is far more flexible than yours. The lungs fold in on themselves, and air is pushed out of the lungs and into the upper respiratory tract, the bronchi and trachea, where it can't participate in gas exchange. This might sound like a disaster. How can you use oxygen from your lungs if the air is forced out of them? But remember, whales don't rely primarily on lung oxygen during a dive. They've already loaded oxygen into their blood and muscles before descending. The collapse of the lungs actually serves an important purpose. It prevents nitrogen from being absorbed into the bloodstream at high pressure. This is crucial. When you breathe compressed air at depth, which is what scuba divers do, nitrogen dissolves into your blood and tissues. If you ascend too quickly, that nitrogen comes out of solution as bubbles, the same way carbon dioxide bubbles out of a soda when you open it. These bubbles can block blood vessels and cause decompression sickness, or the bends, which is excruciating and potentially fatal. Whales avoid this entirely by collapsing their lungs. No air exchange at depth means no nitrogen absorption. They can ascend as quickly as they want without getting the bends. It's an elegant solution to a problem that plagues human divers. While we're talking about the descent, let's consider what happens to whale tissues under pressure. Pressure this extreme would damage many cellular structures, but whale cells have adapted. Their cell membranes are more flexible, containing different ratios of lipids that remain fluid under pressure. Their proteins are stabilized by different chemical bonds that don't deform under compression. At the molecular level, a whale is built to withstand being squeezed by the ocean in ways that our own tissues simply aren't. Now the whale is at depth, perhaps 400 meters down in the case of a humpback, perhaps 800 meters for a fin whale, perhaps 2,000 meters or more for a sperm whale, hunting giant squid in the absolute darkness of the deep ocean. At this point, the whale has been underwater for 20, 30, or perhaps 40 minutes. Its heart is beating perhaps 4 times per minute. Its lungs are collapsed. Its peripheral circulation is shut down. It's operating on stored oxygen, and those stores are depleting. The whale's muscles are now functioning under low oxygen conditions, and they begin to switch to anaerobic metabolism, producing energy without oxygen, the same way your muscles do during intense exercise. This produces lactic acid, which builds up in the tissues. But here's another adaptation. Whales tolerate lactic acid far better than you do. When you exercise intensely and lactic acid accumulates, you feel the burn, and eventually your muscles stop functioning efficiently. You have to stop and recover. Whales can tolerate much higher concentrations of lactic acid without the same negative effects. Their muscles have biochemical buffers that neutralize the acid. Their tissues are adapted to function in what would be for you an acidic crisis. And yet, even with all these adaptations, the clock is ticking. Oxygen stores are finite. At some point, the whale must return to the surface. The ascent begins. The whale turns upward, using powerful strokes of its flukes to propel itself toward light and air. As it rises, pressure decreases. The rib cage expands. The lungs reinflate, filling with the air that had been pushed into the upper respiratory tract. Heart rate begins to increase. Blood vessels to the periphery begin to open. By the time the whale reaches the surface, its body is already transitioning back to aerobic mode. The blowhole breaks the surface, and that explosive exhalation happens. The blow. That spray of old breath, now laden with carbon dioxide and metabolic waste gases, shoots into the air. One explosive exhale, then a deep inhale. 2 seconds. 90% of the lung volume was exchanged. Oxygen flooding into the blood. Carbon dioxide dumped. Lactic acid being cleared from tissues. The whale might take several more breaths in quick succession, each one replenishing oxygen stores, each one preparing for the next dive. There's a rhythm to this life. Dive, hunt or travel or rest, surface, breathe, recover, dive again. Some whales dive almost continuously, with only brief breathing intervals. Sperm whales, for instance, might dive for 45 to 60 minutes, then spend 8 to 10 minutes at the surface, breathing and recovering before diving again. They do this day and night, endlessly cycling between air and water, light and darkness, breath and breathlessness. Let's talk about sperm whales for a moment, because they are the deepest divers of all whales, and their adaptations are the most extreme. A sperm whale can dive to depths exceeding 2,000 meters. At that depth, the pressure is 200 times what it is at the surface. The whale is in absolute darkness. The temperature hovers just above freezing, and yet the whale is hunting. It's using echolocation to find squid, sending out powerful clicks that bounce off prey in the darkness. This requires energy. It requires brain function. It requires that enough oxygen reach the brain and the muscles to sustain activity at a depth that would instantly kill most creatures. Sperm whales have the highest myoglobin concentrations of any mammal. Their muscles are so dark they're almost black. They also have unusually large amounts of oil in their heads, spermaceti oil, which was historically what made them targets for whalers. This oil may play a role in buoyancy regulation, helping the whale descend to great depths more easily. The specifics are still debated, but what's clear is that every aspect of a sperm whale's body is engineered for extreme diving. Here's something that often goes overlooked. When we think about diving, we think about the challenge of breath holding. But there's another challenge that's equally important: cold. Deep ocean water is cold, typically between 2 and 4 degrees Celsius. At that temperature, your body would lose heat rapidly, and hypothermia would set in within minutes. Whales solve this with blubber, that thick layer of fat beneath their skin. Blubber is an extraordinary insulator. It can be 1/2 meter thick in some large whales. It not only provides buoyancy and energy storage, but also creates a thermal barrier between the whale's warm core and the frigid ocean. Blood vessels in the blubber are arranged in a countercurrent heat exchange system. Warm arterial blood flowing from the core toward the skin passes right alongside cold venous blood returning from the skin to the core. Heat transfers from the warm blood to the cold blood, preventing heat loss to the environment. It's the same principle used in industrial heat exchangers, evolved naturally over millions of years. Let's consider the brain for a moment. Your brain uses about 20% of your oxygen supply, despite being only about 2% of your body weight. It's metabolically expensive tissue. A whale's brain is large. A sperm whale's brain is the largest of any animal, weighing up to 9 kilograms. That brain must continue functioning throughout a dive. So how does a whale protect its brain when oxygen is limited? Partly through the preferential blood flow we discussed. But there's another mechanism. Whales can reduce their metabolic rate. They can literally slow down their cellular metabolism, reducing how much oxygen each cell consumes. This isn't something you can do voluntarily. You can't decide to make your cells use less oxygen, but a whale's body does this automatically during a dive. There's also evidence that whales may engage in behavioural strategies to conserve oxygen. Some deep dives appear to be more gliding and passive sinking than active swimming. The whale might swim actively during the first part of the descent, then simply relax and let negative buoyancy carry it deeper with minimal effort. This saves oxygen. At depth, hunting might involve short bursts of activity interspersed with periods of stillness. Every movement is calculated, every expenditure of energy weighed against the oxygen budget. Surfacing and breathing are social too, in many whale species. Whales are not solitary in their relationship with breath. Mother whales teach their calves to breathe. A newborn whale calf must take its first breath within seconds of being born underwater. The mother and sometimes other females in the pod will help push the calf to the surface for that first crucial breath. They'll stay with it, supporting it as it learns the rhythm of breathing and diving. Young calves can't dive as long as adults. Their oxygen storage systems aren't fully developed, so mothers adjust their diving patterns, taking shorter, shallower dives to match their calf's abilities. This continues for months as the calf grows and its physiology matures. There's something profound about this, don't you think? The idea that breath, this most fundamental of life processes, is something whales must learn and socially support. It's not entirely automatic. It requires consciousness and decision-making. A whale must choose when to breathe, must plan its dives around its oxygen stores, and must balance the need for food or the desire to travel against the absolute requirement to return to the surface for air. This makes whales fundamentally different from fish. A fish with its gills can breathe without thinking about it, extracting oxygen from water automatically. But a whale carries the burden of choice with every dive. It must trust its body and its preparations. It must trust that it has loaded enough oxygen to make it back to the surface. And yet, they make it look effortless. Watch footage of whales diving and surfacing. There's a grace to it, a fluidity that suggests this is the most natural thing in the world, which for them it is. Millions of years of evolution have honed these adaptations to such precision that what should be a physiological crisis, breath holding under extreme pressure for an hour, is simply daily life. Let's talk for a moment about what happens when things go wrong. Whales, despite their magnificent adaptations, are not invulnerable. There's increasing evidence that human-generated noise in the oceans, from shipping, from military sonar, from seismic surveys, can disrupt whale diving behaviour. Loud sonar signals, in particular, have been linked to mass strandings of deep diving whales, especially beaked whales. The hypothesis is that intense sonar causes the whales to panic and surface too quickly, or disrupts their ability to navigate and hunt at depth. Some stranded whales have been found with gas bubbles in their tissues, the whale equivalent of the bends. This shouldn't be possible given their lung collapse adaptation, but if a whale is startled and surfaces too quickly, or changes its diving pattern erratically, it might not fully collapse its lungs at depth, or it might breathe at a depth where some gas exchange occurs. The nitrogen absorbed at pressure then comes out of solution during a rapid ascent. It's heartbreaking, really. These animals have evolved nearly perfect adaptations for their environment, only to be challenged by human activities they have no evolutionary preparation for. Climate change poses another challenge. As ocean temperatures rise and ocean chemistry changes, the distribution of prey species shifts. Whales may need to dive deeper or travel farther to find food. This increases their energy expenditure and their oxygen demands. Simultaneously, Changes in ocean circulation could affect oxygen levels in the deep ocean, creating low oxygen zones where prey congregates. These are complex challenges that we're only beginning to understand. But let's return to the physiology itself, because there's more to appreciate. Consider the moment a whale surfaces after a long dive. Its tissues are oxygen depleted. Lactic acid has accumulated. Metabolic waste products need to be cleared, and yet within just a few minutes of breathing at the surface, a whale can be ready to dive again. The recovery is remarkably fast. Oxygen is rapidly reloaded into blood and muscle. Lactic acid is metabolized or cleared. Heart rate returns to normal. Circulation to peripheral tissues resumes. This rapid recovery is another adaptation. A whale can't afford to spend an hour at the surface, recovering from an hour-long dive. It needs to be efficient. Predators exist at the surface. Food exists at depth. Time spent recovering is time not spent feeding or traveling. So whales have evolved metabolic pathways that clear waste products quickly and recharge oxygen stores in minutes rather than hours. There's also the question of sleep. You need to sleep, and when you do, your breathing becomes automatic, controlled by the unconscious parts of your brain. But remember, a whale's breathing is voluntary. It must consciously surface and breathe. So how does a whale sleep without drowning? The answer is fascinating. Whales sleep with half their brain at a time. This is called unihemispheric slow-wave sleep. One hemisphere of the brain enters a sleep state while the other remains awake and alert. The awake hemisphere maintains muscle tone, monitors the environment, and most importantly, ensures the whale continues to surface and breathe. After a period of time, the hemispheres switch. The rested hemisphere takes over the watch, while the previously alert hemisphere sleeps. This way, a whale gets the restorative benefits of sleep without ever becoming fully unconscious. You can sometimes see this in captive whales or dolphins. One eye will be closed, the other open. The closed eye corresponds to the sleeping hemisphere. Imagine navigating life this way. Never fully asleep, never fully unconscious. Always partly alert, always responsible for your next breath. It's a very different relationship with consciousness than we have, and yet whales have lived this way for millions of years. It works. They thrive. Let's think about the respiratory system structure itself, beyond the lungs. The trachea of a whale is relatively short and reinforced with cartilage, preventing it from collapsing under pressure. The bronchi branch efficiently, delivering air to lung tissue that's surprisingly compact given the animal's size. Whale lungs aren't proportionally larger than ours. In fact, relative to body size, they're smaller. But they're more efficient. The alveoli, those tiny air sacs where gas exchange happens, are structured to maximize surface area and minimize diffusion distance. Every aspect of the design is about efficiency and speed. The diaphragm muscle that powers breathing is enormously strong. It has to be. Compressing and expanding lungs at the surface is one thing, but consider a whale at 50 meters depth, just beginning its dive. There's still air in the lungs, but the pressure is compressing them. The diaphragm must have the strength to work against that pressure. And during the explosive exhalation at the surface, the diaphragm contracts with tremendous force to expel air rapidly from the lungs. This is power breathing, each breath a significant muscular effort. There's also a fascinating aspect to whale respiration that involves vocalization. Many whale species sing, produce social calls, or use echolocation clicks. These sounds are produced not in a larynx like yours, but in structures within the respiratory tract. In toothed whales, sound is produced by structures called phonic lips in the nasal passages. Air is pushed past these structures, making them vibrate, and the sound is focused into a beam by the melon, that rounded forehead structure. baleen whales produce their haunting songs through mechanisms that are still not fully understood, possibly involving structures in the larynx or nasal passages. Either way, sound production requires air. A whale must budget not only for metabolic oxygen needs, but also for the air needed to produce sounds. This is particularly important for species like humpback whales, whose males sing elaborate songs that can last for hours. They sink at depth, then surface to breathe, then return to singing. The songs are part of mating displays, so they're not optional. The whale must balance the physiological demands of diving with the social demands of singing. Evolution has found a balance. Think about what we've covered so far. The blowhole is positioned perfectly for efficient surface breathing, the massive oxygen storage in blood and muscle, the dramatic slowing of heart rate and redistribution of blood flow, the intentional collapse of lungs to prevent nitrogen absorption, the tolerance for lactic acid and low oxygen conditions, the countercurrent heat exchange systems, the voluntary control of breathing even during sleep, the rapid recovery at the surface. Every single one of these adaptations represents millions of years of evolutionary refinement. Every single one is essential. Remove any one of them, and the whale's ability to dive deeply and return safely is compromised. And these adaptations didn't evolve in isolation. They evolved together as a system. The increased myoglobin in muscles works in concert with the bradycardia. The flexible rib cage works in concert with the lung collapse. The enhanced blood oxygen capacity works in concert with the preferential blood flow to vital organs. It's a symphony of physiological adaptations, all tuned to enable a mammal, an air-breathing mammal, to exploit the deep ocean as a habitat. Consider the evolutionary path that led here. Whales descended from terrestrial mammals, four-legged creatures that walked on land perhaps 50 million years ago. These ancestors ventured into coastal waters, perhaps to find food or escape predators. Over time, those that were better adapted to water, those that could swim better, dive longer, and find food more efficiently, survived and reproduced. Gradually, legs became flippers, nostrils migrated to the top of the head, bodies became streamlined, and crucially, the physiological adaptations we've discussed evolved. It's not that a whale decided to hold its breath longer, it's that those individuals in the population who happen to have slightly more myoglobin, or slightly slower heart rates during dives, or slightly more flexible rib cages, survived better and had more offspring. Over millions of years and countless generations, these small advantages accumulated. The whales alive today are the result of this immense span of evolutionary time. And here's something worth contemplating as you lie there listening. The same forces that shaped whale physiology, natural selection, adaptation, survival, shaped you. Your lungs, your heart, your blood. You're adapted for a terrestrial, air-breathing existence just as exquisitely as a whale is adapted for diving. You just don't notice your adaptations because they're the baseline of your experience. You don't marvel at your ability to breathe air because you've never known anything else. But from the perspective of a fish, your ability to extract oxygen from air is as remarkable as a whale's ability to store oxygen for an hour-long dive. We are all improbable, really. The fact that life exists at all, that consciousness emerged to contemplate itself, that molecules arrange themselves into systems complex enough to breathe and think and wonder, it's extraordinary. And whales remind us of this. They exist at the edge of what seems physiologically possible. They push the boundaries of mammalian biology, and they do it with an apparent ease that speaks to the power of evolution to solve even the most challenging problems. Let's consider one more aspect of whale diving physiology that's easy to overlook. Buoyancy. Whales are slightly denser than water, which means they tend to sink. This is actually helpful for diving. They don't have to work as hard to descend. But it also means they must actively swim to stay at the surface or at a particular depth. The blubber layer provides some buoyancy, being less dense than water. Oil in the head cavities of sperm whales may help with buoyancy control, and the lungs, when inflated at the surface, provide significant buoyancy. As a whale dives and its lungs compress, it loses that buoyancy and begins to sink more readily. This is efficient. The whale uses its own changing buoyancy as part of its diving strategy. On the ascent, as the lungs re-expand, the whale becomes more buoyant, making the final portion of the ascent easier. It's another example of the body working with physics rather than against it. There's a meditative quality to thinking about these mechanisms, isn't there? The slow heartbeat. The stored oxygen is being gradually consumed, the quiet darkness at depth, the eventual turn and ascent toward light and air. It's a cycle repeated thousands of times in a whale's life, and each cycle is both routine and critical. Each dive could be the last if something goes wrong, if a predator attacks, or if disorientation occurs. But it almost never is. The adaptations hold. The physiology works. The whale surfaces, breathes, and dives again. Humans have tried to match these abilities, of course. Freedivers train to hold their breath for minutes at a time, descending to depths of 100 meters or more on a single breath. They use techniques to increase their oxygen stores, to slow their heart rates, and to tolerate carbon dioxide buildup. And the best free divers in the world can approach what a seal or small whale does. But they can't match the great whales. No human can hold their breath for an hour. No human can dive to 2,000 meters and return. We simply don't have the adaptations. Our myoglobin concentrations are too low. Our blood volume is insufficient. Our bodies can't tolerate the pressure or the oxygen deprivation. And that's okay. We have our own adaptations and our own strengths. But it's humbling to recognize the limits. It's also a reminder that biodiversity matters. Every species represents a unique solution to the challenges of existence. Whales solved the problem of being air-breathing mammals in the ocean. Other creatures solve different problems in different ways, and each solution is a library of information, encoded in DNA, tested over millions of years. When we lose a species, we lose that library. We lose that accumulated wisdom. This is one reason why whale conservation matters so profoundly. Beyond the ethical considerations, beyond the inherent value of these magnificent creatures, there's the knowledge they represent, the solutions they embody. The questions they help us ask are about biology, about physiology, and about what's possible. Research on diving physiology has also had practical applications. Understanding how marine mammals avoid decompression sickness has informed human diving practices and medical treatments. Studying how whales tolerate low oxygen conditions has provided insights into human conditions like stroke and heart attack, where tissues are deprived of oxygen. The field of comparative physiology, studying how different animals solve similar problems, has given us tremendous insights into our own biology. Whales, in their graceful dives, have taught us much. As we approach the end of our time together tonight, I want you to think about breath again. Your breath. Not the dramatic, explosive breath of a whale, but your quiet, constant breath. The rise and fall that's been happening throughout this entire talk. You've been breathing without thinking about it, and that's one of your body's great gifts. Autonomy. Your brainstem handles breathing so you don't have to. But you can also take control. You can hold your breath right now. Try it, just for a moment. Hold your breath and feel what it's like to wait for air. Feel the first whisper of discomfort, the growing urge to breathe, the way your body begins to insist. Now breathe, feel the relief. That relief is what a whale feels, magnified 1,000 times when it breaks the surface after 45 minutes at depth. That gasp of air is not just a physiological necessity, it's a return to the world of breath, a reconnection with the atmosphere, a relief so profound that it's written into every cell of the whale's body. And perhaps there's something in this that speaks to our own lives. We all surface. We all dive. Not literally perhaps, but metaphorically. We descend into work, into challenges, into periods where we're holding our breath emotionally, waiting for the moment we can come up for air. And when we do, when we surface, there's that moment of relief, that breath, that's resetting. Whales teach us something about resilience, about the ability to endure, about the importance of rhythm, dive and surface, work and rest, effort and recovery. We're not so different in that sense. The ocean that whales inhabit is vast and mostly unexplored. We've mapped more of the moon's surface than we have of the ocean floor. In that vastness, whales move through cycles of breath and dive, navigating by sound and memory, finding food in the darkness, raising their young, and singing their songs. They've been doing this for millions of years, long before humans walked upright, long before cities or civilization. And with luck and effort and care, they'll continue long after we're gone. Their physiology, honed by deep time, will carry them forward. So tonight, as you drift towards sleep, perhaps you'll dream of depth and pressure and darkness. Perhaps you'll dream of that moment of surfacing, that explosive exhalation and deep inhalation. Perhaps you'll feel, in some distant corner of your sleeping mind, what it's like to carry a single breath into the unknown and trust that it will be enough to bring you home. And when you wake in the morning and take your first conscious breath of the day, maybe you'll appreciate it just a little more. Maybe you'll recognize it as the gift it is. The ancient gift that we share with whales. The gift of air. The gift of breath. The gift of being for this moment alive. Thank you for spending this hour with me. Thank you for listening. Rest well wherever you are and breathe easy. Now friends, let's slow down and really look at what happens when your body starts to heal itself at night and your mind starts to fade. It's not just about going to sleep. It's also about learning about one of the most complicated and beautiful things your body does every day. We'll learn how your brain changes from a busy city to a quiet village doing important repairs, how your muscles let go of their daily stress, and how each organ system changes its rhythm to help with this important time of renewal. As you listen, pay attention to how your body is getting ready to sleep. Your eyelids may already be getting heavy, and your breathing may be getting deeper on its own. This is your body's ancient knowledge at work. Systems that have been improved over millions of years of evolution are all working together to help you fall asleep. Let's start with a simple fact that people often forget. Sleep isn't the same as not doing anything. Your body and brain don't just turn off like a computer. Instead, sleep is a very active state in which your brain and body work together in a carefully planned symphony of restoration, consolidation, and renewal. While you sleep, your body does important work, like cleaning up after itself and getting ready for the next day. Hours before we actually close our eyes, the story of how we fall asleep begins. The suprachiasmatic nucleus, a group of cells smaller than a grain of rice, is the master clock for your body. It is deep inside your brain. This little clock, which is behind your eyes in the hypothalamus, has been keeping track of the light and dark that have passed through your day. It keeps an eye on the small changes in light intensity from dawn to dusk, just like a lighthouse keeper. This keeps your body connected to the ancient rhythms that have guided life on Earth for billions of years. As the sun goes down and the light starts to fade, this biological clock starts to send out its soft evening signals to the rest of your body. These aren't loud alarm bells. They're soft whispers that hormones and neurotransmitters send at just the right time and in just the right way to coordinate the very complicated process of getting ready for sleep. One of the first things it sends out is a hormone called melatonin. Your pineal gland, which is a small pine cone-shaped structure deep in your brain, makes this hormone. People used to think that the pineal gland was vestigial, which means it was a leftover from evolution that didn't really do anything. We now know that it is one of the most important parts of the body for controlling sleep and wakefulness. People often call melatonin the hormone of darkness, and there's a good reason for that. As the sun goes down, melatonin slowly and steadily rises in your blood. It's not like a sudden flood, it's more like a dimmer switch being slowly turned down, which makes you feel sleepy as bedtime gets closer. Melatonin is released on a very strict schedule. Around 9 p.m, melatonin levels start to rise in most people. They reach their highest point between 3 and 4 a.m, and then they slowly drop off until morning. Artificial light, especially the blue light from electronic devices, can throw off this rhythm. This is because it can trick your pineal gland into thinking it's still daytime and stop melatonin production. Melatonin doesn't work by itself though. Adenosine, another chemical, has been slowly building up in your brain all day. Adenosine is like money for your brain when it gets tired. When your neurons fire, when you think, and when you make a choice, your cells release small amounts of adenosine as a waste product. As the day goes on, adenosine builds up like snow on a hill. You feel sleepier the more you have. Adenosine works by attaching to certain receptors in your brain, especially in areas that control wakefulness and arousal. When there is enough adenosine, it stops these systems from waking you up. It's interesting that caffeine works by temporarily blocking adenosine receptors in your brain. This is why that afternoon coffee can make you feel awake even when you're really tired. The adenosine is still there and building up, but caffeine stops it from sending sleepy messages to your brain cells. As these chemicals that help you sleep start to affect your brain, your body temperature starts to change in an amazing way. Your core temperature, which has been at a steady 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit all day, starts to drop. You might think this is a simple reaction to a cooler evening, but it's actually an active process controlled by your hypothalamus, which is also where your master clock is. Your body cools down by a process called vasodilation, which is when blood vessels near the surface of your skin get wider. Blood moves from your core to your hands and feet, which is where it goes the most. This is why your hands and feet might feel warmer as you get ready for bed. They are acting as heat radiators, which helps lower your core temperature and tell your brain that it's time to sleep. This drop in temperature is so important for starting sleep that people who have trouble controlling their body temperature often have trouble sleeping. The link between sleep and temperature is stronger than you might think. During the course of human evolution, the sleep patterns of our ancestors were intricately linked to the natural cooling that follows sunset. This old temperature pattern still happens today, even in our climate-controlled spaces. Your core body temperature naturally changes by about 2 degrees over the course of a day. It is lowest around 4 a.m. and highest in the early evening. Your cardiovascular system also starts to change in the evening with amazing accuracy. Your heart rate, which has been changing to meet the needs of your busy day, speeding up when you climb stairs and slowing down when you sit quietly, starts to settle into its nighttime rhythm. Your heart rate changes all the time during the day to keep up with the different things you're doing and feeling. As you get closer to sleep, this variability goes down and your heart starts to beat more slowly and steadily. Your blood pressure, which goes up and down during the day because of stress, activity and emotion, starts to settle into its nighttime pattern as well. Doctors call the drop in blood pressure that happens at night dipping. This dip is usually 10 to 15% lower than during the day. It gives your heart and blood vessels a chance to rest and heal. People who don't have this normal drop in blood pressure at night, known as non-dippers, are more likely to get heart disease. This shows how important it is for heart health to get enough sleep at night. The changes that happen in your heart and blood vessels when you get ready for bed aren't just about slowing down, they're also about getting the most out of your sleep. Your heart doesn't just slow down when you sleep, it also works better. The time between heartbeats gets more regular, and the heart muscle doesn't have to work as hard to pump blood around your body. This lighter workload lets the heart muscle cells repair themselves. At the same time, Your breathing starts to change in small but important ways. The beat gets more regular, deeper, and slower. Your diaphragm, the dome-shaped muscle under your lungs that does most of the work of breathing, starts to work in a more relaxed way. Your breathing changes throughout the day based on what you're doing, how you feel, and what you're thinking about. As sleep gets closer, breathing becomes more automatic. The brainstem's respiratory centers control it more than conscious effort does. This change in breathing actually helps your body make other changes that help you sleep, which makes you feel more relaxed. Your parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest part of your autonomic nervous system, kicks in when you breathe more slowly and deeply. This activation slows your heart rate even more, relaxes your muscles, and encourages the release of neurotransmitters that calm you down. Changing the way you breathe is only one part of how your respiratory system gets ready for sleep. There are small changes in the airways themselves. Some people snore more when they sleep because the muscles that keep their throats open during the day start to relax. Your airways make mucus in a way that follows a circadian rhythm. This means that the amount of mucus can change at different times of the night, which can make your breathing passages less clear. Your digestive system is also getting ready for the night shift with its own complicated dance. Your digestive system has been working all day, making stomach acid when you eat, releasing digestive enzymes, and moving food through your intestines with rhythmic muscle contractions. This system starts to slow down as the sun goes down. The production of digestive enzymes slows down, and the muscles that push food through your intestines contract less often and with less force. The enteric nervous system, which is sometimes called the second brain because it has so many neurons in your gut, controls this slowdown in digestion. Your enteric nervous system gets the message from your brain and makes changes as your central nervous system gets ready for sleep. It's not just that digestion slows down food processing that makes sleep and digestion more complicated. Your gut makes a lot of the same neurotransmitters as your brain, like serotonin, which is important for sleep and mood. Your intestines, not your brain, make about 90% of the serotonin in your body. This is why how you eat and how healthy your digestive system is can have such a big effect on how well you sleep. Your liver, which is an amazing chemical processing plant, also goes into its nighttime mode. Your liver works hard during the day to break down the nutrients in your food, make bile to help digest fat, and keep your blood sugar levels stable. When night falls, the liver's priorities change. It lowers the amount of glucose made, which helps keep blood sugar levels steady during the overnight fast. It changes its focus to detoxification, breaking down and neutralizing the different chemicals and toxins that have built up in your body during the day. This detox work at night is very important for staying healthy. Your liver breaks down everything from toxins in the environment to the waste products that cells make when they break down. When you're sleeping and not eating or drinking, the liver can put more energy into these cleaning processes. While all of these changes are happening to your body, your brain is also going through a very interesting change. Your brain's electrical activity changes from the fast, varied, and responsive patterns that define your waking brain to the slower, more synchronized patterns that will keep you awake all night. An electroencephalogram, EEG, can measure your brain waves. They start to change from the fast, alert beta waves of focused wakefulness to the slower alpha waves of relaxation. Beta waves, which range from 13 to 30 cycles per second, show that your brain is awake and working on problems. Alpha waves, which happen 8 to 13 times per second, show a more relaxed, meditative state. This change from beta to alpha waves is the start of your brain's journey to sleep. At this point, your conscious mind also starts to let go of its tight grip on your thoughts and feelings. Have you ever noticed that your thoughts get more fluid and dreamlike as you go to sleep? This isn't random. Your brain's prefrontal cortex, which controls executive functions, planning, and logical thinking, is slowly becoming less active. The prefrontal cortex is like a strict boss during the day, making sure your thoughts are organized and focused on your goals. When this supervisor goes off duty, other parts of your brain become more active. This is what causes the strange, often illogical thoughts and images that can pop into your head when you're sleepy. There will be changes in how neurotransmitters work in different parts of your brain during this transition. Dopamine, the neurotransmitter that is linked to motivation and seeking rewards, starts to go down. Norepinephrine, which helps you stay awake and aware of your surroundings, also begins to drop. At the same time, GABA, the brain's main inhibitory neurotransmitter, starts to work harder. GABA is like a brake pedal for your nervous system. It slows down neural activity and helps you relax. Your senses are also getting ready for their nighttime duties in a very coordinated way. Your eyes start to relax after having to adjust to different levels of light all day. The muscles that control the size of your pupils and the shape of your lens relax. Your pupils get a little bigger, but not because you're trying to let in more light. It's because the muscles that control them are relaxing as part of getting ready for sleep. More than just relaxing your muscles happens when your visual system goes to sleep. The rods and cones in your retina, which are the photoreceptor cells, start to change how sensitive they are. The cones, which are responsible for seeing color and work best in bright light, become less active. The rods, which are more sensitive to light but can't tell colors apart, keep doing their job. This is why colors may not look as bright in dim evening light. Your eyes are already getting ready for the low light of sleep. Your hearing doesn't completely stop while you sleep. In fact, your brain acts as a kind of guard all night, always listening for sounds that could mean trouble. But as you get ready for bed, your ears do start to process sounds differently. Your brain stops paying attention to normal, non-threatening sounds and stays alert to strange or possibly dangerous ones. The thalamus, a relay station in your brain that acts as a gatekeeper for sensory information, controls this selective attention. The thalamus is very important for falling asleep. During wakefulness, it sends sensory information from your ears, eyes, skin, and other sense organs to the right parts of your cerebral cortex for processing. As you get closer to sleep, the thalamus starts to turn down the volume on sensory input to your conscious brain by reducing this relay function. This is why sounds that would catch your attention during the day might not even register as you're falling asleep. As you get ready for sleep, your sense of touch also changes in interesting ways. The line between your body and the world around you gets less clear. The body schema, which is how your brain sees your body, starts to fade. This is controlled by parts of your parietal lobe that usually keep a very accurate map of where your body is in space and how it's positioned. Proprioceptors are specialized sensors in your muscles, joints, and inner ear that tell your brain where your body is and how it's moving. They keep your body awareness up to date all the time when you're awake. Your brain pays less attention to these proprioceptive signals as you get closer to sleep. This is why you might feel like you're floating or sinking as you fall asleep. Your brain is slowly losing track of where your body is in space. When you let go of something, you might feel a hypnic jerk, which is that sudden feeling of falling that wakes you up just as you're about to fall asleep. Your brain thinks that your muscles relaxing means you're really falling, which makes you jerk to protect yourself. Most people get hypnic jerks from time to time, and they are perfectly normal. As you sleep, your brain starts one of the most amazing journeys of restoration and consolidation that happens in nature. Sleep isn't just one state. It's made up of several stages, each with its own purpose, characteristics, and biological processes. These stages repeat every 90 minutes throughout the night, like movements in a complex symphony, and each one is important for your overall recovery and readiness for the next day. Light sleep, or Stage 1 NREM, non-rapid eye movement, sleep, is the first stage of sleep. This is that sleepy state in between being awake and asleep. During this time, if someone were to measure your brain waves, they would see the slow rolling theta waves that are typical of this stage. Your muscles don't stop working completely, but they do slow down a lot. Your eyes move more slowly, going from quick darting movements when you're awake to slow rolling motions. Your mind starts to break apart during stage 1 sleep. You might have hypnagogic hallucinations, which are short dreamlike sounds, or images that seem real but are actually made up by your brain as it changes. These could be things like seeing flashes of light, hearing someone call your name, or feeling like you're floating. As different parts of your brain shut down at slightly different rates, these experiences happen. This makes it so that perception and reality don't always match up. You might not even know you were sleeping if someone woke you up during stage 1 sleep. You could say that you were just resting your eyes or thinking quietly. This stage usually only lasts a few minutes in healthy adults. It helps them transition from being awake to deeper sleep. But the length can change depending on things like how old you are, how stressed you are, and how healthy your sleep is overall. Stage 2. Sleep is where you spend most of the night, about 45% of the total sleep time for healthy adults. Researchers have given these brainwave patterns very descriptive names: sleep spindles and K-complexes. On an EEG readout, sleep spindles look like spindle-shaped waves. They are short bursts of rhythmic brain activity. Your thalamus, the same part of your brain that controls your senses, makes them. They show that your brain is actively keeping outside stimuli from reaching your conscious mind. During stage 2 sleep, your brain gets big, dramatic waves called K-complexes. Your brain seems to respond to sounds, touches, and other sensations from outside by sending these waves. These are things that your brain picks up on, but doesn't think are threatening enough to wake you up. K-complexes are your brain's way of saying, "I heard that, but it's not important enough to wake me up." For example, a car door slamming outside might make a K-complex, but it won't wake you up unless your brain thinks it's dangerous. Your heart rate and breathing keep slowing down and becoming more regular during stage 2 sleep. Your body temperature drops even more, reaching levels that would be worrying if you were awake but are perfectly normal when you sleep. Your muscles relax more completely, but they don't get as relaxed as they do when you're in deeper stages of sleep. This is also when your brain really starts to do some of its important maintenance work. Your brain's waste removal system, the glymphatic system, starts to work harder. You can think of the glymphatic system as the brain's nighttime cleaning service. When you're awake, your brain cells are very close together, which makes it hard for cerebrospinal fluid to flow through and clean up cellular waste. Your brain cells actually shrink by about 60% while you sleep, especially in the deeper stages we're getting close to. This makes channels that let cerebrospinal fluid flow more easily through brain tissue. As the night goes on, you enter stages 3 and 4 of sleep, which are often grouped together and called deep sleep, slow wave sleep, or delta sleep. Going into deep sleep is like going down into the depths of a calm ocean. Your brain waves change to delta waves, which are the slowest frequency. They move through your brain like gentle, powerful ocean waves. These waves go up and down less than 4 times per second, which is a big difference from the fast beta waves of being awake. Real restoration magic happens during deep sleep, and the changes that happen during this stage are nothing short of amazing. Your brain syncs up in a way that it never does when you're awake. Your brain's millions of neurons fire together in slow, organized waves. This synchronization makes it possible for things to happen that can't happen when the brain is awake and busy. Your pituitary gland makes the most growth hormone when you are in deep sleep. It's not just kids who need growth hormone, adults need it too. It helps your body make proteins, breaks down fat for energy, keeps your muscles strong, strengthens your bones, and helps your tissues heal. People who don't get enough deep sleep have lower levels of growth hormone, which shows how important it is for the body to release it during deep sleep. During deep sleep, your immune system works at a level that would be impossible to keep up with during the day. The number of white blood cells that fight infections goes up a lot. Your bone marrow, spleen, and lymph nodes work hard to make and send immune cells all over your body. Cytokines, which are chemical messengers that help the immune system work, are at their highest levels when you are in deep sleep. This immune activation while you sleep helps explain why you often feel worse when you're sick. Your body is using a lot of energy to fight the infection, energy that would normally be used for other things. It also explains why getting enough sleep is so important for staying healthy, and why people who don't get enough sleep are more likely to get colds and other infections. Your muscles have been relaxing more and more as you sleep, and now they are at their most relaxed state. Deep sleep starts to fix all the tension that builds up in muscle fibers during the day, like tiny tears, the buildup of metabolic waste, and the effects of stress and strain. Muscle tissue makes more proteins, which helps repair and strengthen muscle fibers. More blood flows to the muscles, bringing them new oxygen and nutrients and taking away waste. But the most interesting thing is that deep sleep is when your brain does some of its most important and thorough cleaning. The glymphatic system started working during stage 2 sleep and is now working at full capacity. The interstitial space, which is the space between your brain cells, gets a lot bigger during deep sleep, by 60% or more. This growth makes pathways for cerebrospinal fluid to move through your brain tissue, which cleans up the waste products that build up from daily neural activity. This cleaning process is especially important for getting rid of certain proteins that can be dangerous if they build up. When beta amyloid builds up in the brain, it can lead to Alzheimer's disease. During deep sleep, the body actively gets rid of this protein fragment. This nightly cleaning cycle also gets rid of tau proteins, which are another group of proteins linked to neurodegenerative diseases. The glymphatic system doesn't do this cleaning job by itself. During deep sleep, glial cells, which are the brain's support cells, become more active. The brain's immune cells, called microglia, become more active and look for and destroy damaged cells and cellular debris. Astrocytes are star-shaped cells that help neurons in many ways. They help move cerebrospinal fluid through brain tissue and help get rid of waste. During deep sleep, it's like your brain opens all its doors and windows, letting new cerebrospinal fluid flow through every corner, picking up the day's neural debris and carrying it away through your lymphatic system. Researchers now think that sleep disorders and not getting enough sleep for a long time may lead to neurodegenerative diseases because they stop the brain from cleaning itself properly. Deep sleep is also very good for your heart and blood vessels. Your heart rate drops to its lowest point of the day, which gives your heart muscle a lot of time to rest between contractions. Blood pressure drops to its lowest point, which gives your arteries a break and time to heal any damage they may have done during the day. Doctors use the drop in blood pressure during deep sleep as a sign of heart health because it happens so often. During deep sleep, your brain's blood vessels also change in important ways. They get a little bigger, which lets more blood flow through them. This helps with both the glymphatic cleaning process and the extra neural activity needed for memory consolidation. This increased blood flow to the brain brings new oxygen and glucose to brain cells and helps get rid of waste. Deep sleep is also good for your bones because it gives them a lot of rest. Osteoblasts, which are cells that build bone, become more active while you sleep. They lay down new bone material and keep your bones strong. The growth hormone that is released during deep sleep and the lower levels of cortisol, which can stop bone formation when they are too high, help this process along. The way the endocrine system works during deep sleep is especially beautiful. Cortisol, which is often called the stress hormone, is at its lowest levels during the first half of the night. This lets your body relax completely and start the healing process. Growth hormone levels go up. Prolactin, a hormone that helps the immune system and heals tissues, goes up. When these hormones rise and fall in a coordinated way, they make the best conditions for healing and restoration. After about 90 minutes of moving through these progressively deeper stages of NRM sleep, your brain does something amazing. It completely changes gears and enters REM sleep, or rapid eye movement sleep. One of the most dramatic changes that happens in the body is when you go from waking up to REM sleep. Even though the name suggests fast movement, REM sleep causes your voluntary muscles to become very weak and almost completely paralyzed. REM atonia is the name for this paralysis, which is actually a way for your brainstem neurons to protect you. These neurons actively stop the motor neurons that control your muscles, which stops you from acting out the vivid dreams that happen during this stage of sleep. The paralysis is so bad that your body is almost completely immobile, except for your diaphragm, which needs to keep working for you to breathe, and your eye muscles. Neurotransmitters that actively stop muscle activity are what cause REM atonia. Glycine and GABA are both inhibitory neurotransmitters that fill your spinal cord's motor neurons, stopping them from sending signals to your muscles. This paralysis usually goes away when you wake up from REM sleep, but sometimes it doesn't happen right away, which can be scary because you wake up mentally but can't move. Your brain is almost as active during REM sleep as it is when you're awake, but the activity is very different and has a different purpose. Researchers think that your brain is going through a process of consolidation, integration, and creative synthesis instead of responding to things happening outside of you and making decisions about the world around you. Your experiences, lessons, and memories from the day are being sorted, evaluated, and added to what you already know and have done. Think of it as your brain's librarian working all night, but this librarian doesn't just put new books on the right shelves. Instead, this librarian reads the new books, compares them to old ones, looks for connections and themes, and sometimes even writes new books that bring together ideas from different sources. This is why you might wake up with the answer to a problem that had you stumped the day before, or with a creative idea that seems to come out of nowhere. During REM sleep, the neurochemical environment of your brain is very different from when you are awake or in other stages of sleep. During wakefulness, norepinephrine, serotonin, and histamine are the most common neurotransmitters. During this time, they are at their lowest levels of the whole 24-hour cycle. This decrease in these wake-promoting neurotransmitters lets other brain systems take over. During REM sleep, acetylcholine, a neurotransmitter that is important for learning and memory, becomes much more active. People think that this higher level of acetylcholine activity is very important for the memory consolidation processes that happen during this stage. Some scientists say that the brain during REM sleep is like a brain that has been given drugs that boost acetylcholine levels. This is because the cholinergic system, which is the brain's acetylcholine network, becomes so active during this time. This one-of-a-kind mix of neurochemicals makes the conditions for the vivid, often strange things that happen in our dreams. When you sleep in REM, your brain makes up detailed stories that can feel very real while you're dreaming them. You might find yourself flying, talking to people who died years ago, or figuring out how to solve problems that seem impossible. These dreams aren't just random neural firing, they seem to play important roles in processing feelings, storing memories, and even boosting creativity. REM dreams are usually more complicated, emotionally charged, and story-like than the short, simple dreams that can happen during other stages of sleep. Your brain is basically making complicated virtual reality experiences that let it deal with feelings, solve problems, and connect different pieces of information in a safe place where there are no consequences. During REM sleep, your body's temperature control system works in very different ways, which shows how special this stage of sleep really is. During REM sleep, your body becomes almost cold-blooded, like a reptile. This is different from other sleep stages, when your body can still control its temperature by shivering, sweating, or changing blood flow. Your body's thermostat is off for a short time, and your core temperature moves toward the temperature of the room. This short-term loss of thermoregulation is why the temperature of your sleeping environment is so important for good REM sleep. Your body can't adjust during REM periods if your bedroom is too hot or too cold. This can break up this important sleep stage and make it less restorative. The temporary loss of thermoregulation during REM sleep also has an effect on other parts of this sleep stage. The hypothalamus is the part of your brain that controls your circadian rhythms and keeps your body temperature stable. During REM sleep, these centers basically shut down, which might explain why REM sleep periods are often linked to the most vivid and emotionally intense dreams. The brain areas that usually keep things running smoothly are temporarily out of service. Your heart and blood vessels also show different patterns during REM sleep. NRM sleep is when your heart rate and blood pressure are steady and low. REM sleep, on the other hand, is when your heart rate and blood pressure can change a lot. During REM sleep, your heart rate and blood pressure can change a lot, sometimes getting close to or even higher than what they are when you're awake. These changes often match the emotional content of your dreams. For example, your heart might race during a scary or exciting dream, even though your body is completely still. This heart activity during REM sleep is very important for health. People who have certain heart problems may be more likely to have heart problems during REM sleep, when the combination of intense brain activity and changes in the heart's blood flow can put extra stress on the heart. This is one reason why sleep quality and heart health are so closely linked. The pattern and length of these sleep stages change in interesting ways as the night goes on. You spend more time in the deeper, slow-wave stages of NREM sleep early in the night, when your body needs to heal the most. Your first REM period of the night could only last a few minutes, but as morning gets closer and your body gets the rest it needs, your brain starts to focus on the mental processing that happens during REM sleep. As the night goes on, your REM periods get longer and happen more often. In the early morning hours, you might spend 30 to 40 minutes in REM sleep during each 90-minute cycle. This is a lot more than the few minutes you spend in REM sleep during your first cycle of the night. It seems like your brain saves the hardest processing jobs for the hours right before you wake up, when it can work without being interrupted by the more important needs for physical restoration. The fact that the stages of sleep change throughout the night helps explain why waking up at different times can feel so different. Researchers call it sleep inertia, when you wake up during a deep sleep period early in the night and feel groggy and confused. But if you wake up naturally at the end of an REM period in the early morning, you're more likely to feel awake and refreshed, and you'll remember your dreams clearly. Your endocrine system works the same way all night long. It restores your body early on and then gets ready for you to wake up. The body releases growth hormone mostly during the deep sleep periods of the first half of the night. This hormone is very important for repairing the body, but as morning gets closer, your hormones start to change to wakefulness. Cortisol levels were at their lowest in the first half of the night. They start to rise in the hours before dawn. This rise in cortisol isn't a sign of stress. It's just your body getting ready for the energy needs of the next day. When you wake up, your cortisol levels are high enough to make you feel awake and ready to face the day. The timing of this rise in cortisol is perfectly in sync with your body's natural circadian rhythm. If you tend to wake up early, your cortisol levels will start to rise earlier in the night. The rise happens later if you are naturally more of a night owl. Your master clock in the suprachiasmatic nucleus controls this. It has been keeping time while you sleep and coordinating the complicated hormonal changes that will help you wake up more easily. During sleep, thyroid hormones also follow a daily pattern. Thyroid stimulating hormone, TSH, increases during sleep, which helps the body release thyroid hormones that help control metabolism. These hormones work with cortisol and growth hormone to control the complicated metabolic processes that happen while you sleep and when you wake up. Your immune system sees the whole time you sleep as a good time to repair and strengthen itself. But the way it works changes as you go through different stages of sleep. When you're in deep sleep, your body is focused on healing itself, and your immune system is busy making and sending out cells that fight infections. T helper cells, which help your immune system work, get more active. Your liver, spleen, and lymph nodes do a better job of getting rid of toxins and cellular waste. When you sleep in REM, your immune system shifts its focus to inflammatory processes that help your brain work better and strengthen your memory. Some inflammatory markers that would be worrying while awake actually go up during REM sleep. This seems to be a normal part of the process of synaptic remodeling and memory formation. This is why you often feel tired and get sick more easily when you don't get enough sleep. Your immune system hasn't had enough time to do its nighttime maintenance. People who don't get enough sleep on a regular basis have weaker immune systems and vaccines that don't work as well and are more likely to get sick. Sleep is also very important and complicated for remembering things and learning. It's not just a matter of moving data from temporary storage to permanent storage. The process is much more complicated and creative than that. Your brain is always working to connect new memories with old ones while you sleep, especially during slow wave and REM sleep. These connections and associations aren't clear to your conscious mind. During different stages of sleep, your brain processes different kinds of memories. NREM sleep is when procedural memories, like how to ride a bike or play a musical instrument, are mostly stored. Declarative memories, which include facts, events, and experiences, benefit from both NREM NREM and REM sleep, but in different ways. NREM sleep helps these memories become stronger and more stable, while REM sleep helps them fit in with what you already know and find general rules and patterns. During REM sleep, this integration process is very creative. Your brain doesn't just store new memories, it also looks for links between them and old memories. Sometimes it finds links that weren't clear when you were awake. This is why you might wake up with new ideas about problems you've been working on, or why creative solutions seem to come out of nowhere after a good night's sleep. Your brain goes through physical changes during the memory consolidation process. While you sleep, the connections between neurons, called synapses, get stronger for important memories and weaker for less important ones. This process, known as synaptic homeostasis, is similar to how a gardener trims a plant to keep the most important branches strong while cutting back on unnecessary growth so that the most important connections can grow. Your brain also goes through a process called systems consolidation while you sleep. This is when memories that were first stored in the hippocampus, a part of the brain that is very important for making new memories, are slowly moved to more permanent storage areas in the cerebral cortex. This process of moving memories can take weeks or even months. Each night's sleep helps memories settle into their long-term storage places. During this process, the hippocampus works like a temporary storage space. The hippocampus quickly makes connections that help you remember what you learned during the day. But these first connections are weak and won't last long. The hippocampus replays these new memories over and over again while you sleep, sending them to different parts of the cortex. Every time you replay, the connections in the cortex get stronger, slowly creating a permanent storage network that doesn't need the hippocampus anymore. The replay process is most active during the sharp wave ripples that happen when you're in NREM sleep. These ripples are short, high-frequency bursts of electrical activity that move through the hippocampus and reactivate the neural patterns that were made during learning. Your hippocampus seems to be teaching the rest of your brain while you sleep by going over the lessons from the day over and over until they are fully learned. When you sleep, your body goes through a process of restoration that affects every system in your body, including your brain. This is a full body renewal that affects every cell and organ. During sleep, your skin, which is the body's largest organ, does a lot of the work of repairing itself. During sleep, cell division and protein synthesis go up a lot, which helps heal the small damage done during the day by the sun, toxins in the environment, and normal wear and tear. The way the skin heals itself while you sleep is very complicated and works very well. During sleep, the body makes the most collagen, which keeps the skin strong and flexible. More blood flows to the skin, bringing new nutrients and oxygen while taking away waste. The skin makes new cells faster, which helps replace damaged cells and keep the skin's protective barrier intact. People often say they need beauty sleep because it's true that sleep helps keep skin looking young and healthy. Researchers have found that people who don't get enough sleep show signs of aging more quickly, such as more fine lines, uneven skin tone, and less skin elasticity. Your hair follicles also follow a circadian rhythm, which means that they grow the most while you sleep. Hormones released during sleep, especially growth hormone, help hair grow and keep it healthy. This is why not getting enough sleep for a long time can make your hair thin and fall out. The follicles aren't getting the hormones they need to grow well. Your digestive system does a lot of maintenance and repair work at night when it's relatively quiet. The cells that line your stomach and intestines are constantly under attack from digestive acids, food particles, and bacteria. They grow back faster while you sleep. The body makes more protective mucus, which helps keep the barrier between what you eat and drink and the inside of your body. During sleep, your liver can focus on detoxification because it doesn't have to deal with the daily demands of processing food. There are two main steps in the liver's detoxification process. First, it breaks down toxins into smaller pieces. Then it makes these pieces water-soluble so they can be removed through urine or bile. During sleep, both phases are more active because the liver can focus more on cleaning your blood and getting rid of toxins that have built up. During sleep, the liver also helps keep your metabolism going. It helps keep your blood sugar levels stable during your overnight fast by slowly releasing stored glucose to keep your brain and other organs' energy levels steady. It breaks down fats and cholesterol, makes important proteins, and makes bile for the next day to help digest fats. Your kidneys also work harder during some stages of sleep. They do a better job of filtering waste from your blood, concentrating urine, and keeping the right balance of fluids and electrolytes in your body. The increased efficiency of kidney function during sleep is why your urine is typically more concentrated in the morning. Your kidneys have been working to conserve water while efficiently eliminating waste. Your lymphatic system, which helps drain your body and keep an eye on your immune system, works extra hard while you sleep. When you sleep, your muscles relax and you lie down, which makes lymph fluid flow more easily. Lymph fluid carries cellular waste and immune cells around your body. Lymph nodes work hard to get rid of bacteria, viruses, and cellular debris that have built up during the day. The lymphatic system and the glymphatic system in your brain work together to make a network throughout your body for getting rid of waste and keeping an eye on your immune system. This coordination shows why getting enough sleep is so important for your health. Your body's cleaning and repair systems work best when you sleep. During sleep, your bones and muscles get a lot of repair and strengthening. When you do normal daily activities, your muscle fibers get tiny tears. Increased protein synthesis fixes these tears. Growth hormone, which is mostly released during deep sleep, helps muscles grow and heal. When you sleep, blood flow to your muscles increases. This brings in new nutrients and oxygen and takes away metabolic waste products like lactic acid. Your bones also benefit significantly from sleep. Osteoblasts, which are cells that build bone, become more active while you sleep. They add new bone material and keep the density of your bones. Growth hormone and lower levels of cortisol during sleep help this process along. High levels of cortisol can make it harder for bones to form. The rest your body gets during sleep also helps your bones heal from the stress of carrying weight during the day. When you sleep, your joints and connective tissues fix themselves. Your joint's cartilage doesn't have its own blood supply, but it gets nutrients from the pressure and release that happens when you move. When you sleep, your joints are mostly still, which lets cartilage absorb fluids and nutrients more easily. This helps keep your joints healthy and flexible. The intervertebral discs in your spine actually expand during sleep as you lie horizontally. During the day, gravity squeezes these discs, pushing some of the fluid out of them. The discs take in fluid and grow at night when the pressure of gravity is gone. Your spine has actually decompressed while you sleep, which is why you are a little taller in the morning than in the evening. Your reproductive system also follows circadian rhythms that are very similar to sleep. Men's bodies make the most testosterone while they sleep, especially during REM sleep. The most active time for the pulsatile release of luteinizing hormone, which boosts testosterone production, is when you sleep. This is why men usually have the most testosterone in the morning after a good night's sleep. Sleep patterns also affect the reproductive hormones that control the menstrual cycle in women. Follicle-stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone are released in a way that follows the body's natural rhythms. Changes in sleep can change these rhythms. This could be why people who work shifts or have chronic sleep problems sometimes have trouble getting pregnant. Your respiratory system keeps doing its important work while you sleep, but it does so in a way that makes it easier to get oxygen and get rid of carbon dioxide. Breathing becomes more regular and efficient while you sleep in NREM. Your brainstem's respiratory centers keep your breathing steady and rhythmic without any conscious effects that can make waking breathing irregular. During some stages of sleep, your lungs are better at exchanging gases. When you lie down, blood flow to different parts of your lungs changes, which makes ventilation more even and matches airflow to blood flow better. Your respiratory system can keep enough oxygen levels with less work because of this increased efficiency. But when you sleep, your muscles relax, which also affects your airways. When you sleep, the muscles that keep your throat open relax, which can make the airway a little narrower. This is why people snore more when they sleep, and why some people get sleep apnea, which is when their airway gets blocked for a short time while they sleep. There is a special blood supply to your brain that changes in important ways while you sleep. During sleep, the blood-brain barrier, which keeps toxins out of your brain and controls what can get into brain tissue, becomes more open to some helpful substances. This higher permeability makes it easier for nutrients to get to where they need to go and for waste products to be removed more quickly. During REM sleep, blood flow to the brain rises, which helps the high metabolic activity of this sleep stage. The extra blood flow brings in new glucose and oxygen to help with the intense neural processing that happens during REM sleep. And it also helps get rid of the metabolic waste products that come from this activity. The cerebrospinal fluid that surrounds your brain and spinal cord also has a circadian rhythm. The body makes more of this fluid while you sleep, which helps the glymphatic cleaning processes we talked about before. The makeup of cerebrospinal fluid also changes while you sleep. It has different amounts of proteins, ions, and other things that help the brain work at night. As the morning gets closer, your body starts the complicated and beautifully timed process of getting ready to wake up. This isn't a sudden change from sleep to wakefulness. It's a slow process that starts about an hour before you naturally wake up and involves dozens of biological systems working together perfectly. The first signs of this awakening process start in your suprachiasmatic nucleus, which is the master clock we talked about at the start of our journey. This tiny clock has been keeping track of the time all night, and when your set sleep time is up, it starts the process of waking you up with the same accuracy it used to help you fall asleep. Your core body temperature, which dropped during the night to help you sleep, starts to slowly rise back to waking levels. This rise in temperature is an active process that includes changes in blood flow, metabolism, and how much heat is made. The warming doesn't happen all at once. It starts an hour before you wake up and goes on until the early morning hours. The first half of the night was when cortisol levels were at their lowest. They start to rise steadily in the morning. Your body naturally raises cortisol levels to give you the energy and alertness you need for the day ahead. This is not a response to stress. Researchers call it the cortisol awakening response, and it gives you a burst of energy that helps you move from sleep to wakefulness. This rise in cortisol happens at just the right time for your own circadian rhythm, and things like how much light you get, how much you exercise, and when you eat can all affect it. People who stick to a regular sleep schedule have stronger and more accurate cortisol awakening responses, which help them feel more awake and energized in the morning. Melatonin levels, which are highest in the middle of the night, start to slowly drop as morning approaches. This drop in melatonin takes away one of the main signs that you're sleepy, which makes other systems that wake you up more noticeable. Light exposure speeds up the drop in melatonin, which is why opening curtains or turning on lights can help you wake up. This morning symphony also includes other hormones. Thyroid hormones rise to help the body meet the higher metabolic needs of being awake. As your body goes from sleeping, when it needs to heal, to being awake, when it needs to be active, your growth hormone levels go down. The exact timing of these hormones' rises and falls makes the best conditions for waking up. As morning gets closer, your sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight or flight part of your autonomic nervous system, gets more active. This higher sympathetic activity makes your heart beat faster, raises your blood pressure a little, and makes you more alert. The activation is slow and gentle, which is very different from the sudden sympathetic surge you might feel when you wake up to a loud alarm. Light is very important during this morning transition, even if your eyes are closed. Even a little bit of light coming in through your eyelids can tell your brain that it's time to start waking up as the sun rises. There are special cells in your retina called intrinsically photosensitive retinal ganglion cells that are very sensitive to blue light and send signals straight to your suprachiasmatic nucleus. These cells that are sensitive to light don't help you see in the usual way. Instead, they are part of your circadian system. They can see light even when your eyes are mostly closed during sleep. Their signals help reset your circadian rhythms for the next day, making sure that your internal clock stays in sync with the outside world. The gradual rise in light also causes changes in the production of neurotransmitters. As morning comes, serotonin levels, which were low during REM sleep, start to rise. This rise in serotonin helps make you feel better and more awake. The link between light, serotonin, and mood helps us understand why people often feel better on sunny days, and why light therapy can help with seasonal depression. As you get ready to wake up, your brain's neurotransmitter systems go through a carefully planned rebalancing. The neurotransmitters that were blocked during REM sleep, such as norepinephrine, serotonin, and histamine, start to rise again. These chemicals help you wake up, feel better, and think more clearly. Dopamine, a neurotransmitter that makes you want to do things and get rewards, also goes up as you get closer to waking up. This rise in dopamine gives you the drive to get up and interact with the world instead of just staying in bed and sleeping. The process of waking up involves a carefully planned rise in brain activity, but this rise follows a certain pattern. The brainstem arousal systems, which control basic wakefulness, are the first to turn on. Then the thalamus, which sends sensory information to the cortex, starts to work normally again. Finally, the cortex itself becomes fully active, bringing back the ability to think, plan, and make decisions at a higher level. Your prefrontal cortex, which had been pretty quiet while you were sleeping, starts to get more active. This gives you back your ability to think logically, plan, and take charge. This reactivation doesn't happen right away. It can take 30 minutes or more for your prefrontal cortex to work at full capacity after you wake up. That's why you might feel groggy or mentally slow right after you wake up. During the awakening process, your motor cortex, which controls voluntary movement, also comes back to life. You are no longer paralyzed, which kept you from acting out your dreams. You now have full control of your muscles. You may notice that your first movements after waking up are slow and deliberate. This is because your motor system is slowly getting back to full function after shutting down for the night. As you wake up, the sensory gating that happened while you were sleeping, blocking out sensory information that wasn't threatening, slowly goes away. Your thalamus goes back to doing its full relay job, which lets sensory information get to your conscious mind. Sounds that would have been blocked out while you were sleeping become clear. Your sensitivity to touch, temperature, and other feelings goes back to normal. Your autonomic nervous system also changes from being asleep to being awake. The heart rate goes from the slow, steady rhythm of sleep to the more variable pattern of wakefulness. Blood pressure goes up from its low levels at night. Breathing becomes easier to control on purpose and in response to the environment. Your stomach and digestive enzymes get ready for the first meal of the day by making more of them. Your liver starts making more glucose to give you energy for the busy day ahead. Your kidneys change how they work to meet the different needs for fluids and electrolytes that come with being awake. It takes a lot of coordination to go from sleep to wakefulness. To make the smooth transition from sleep to wakefulness, dozens of different systems must all change how they work at the same time. You feel awake and refreshed when this process goes smoothly, which means you wake up naturally at the end of a sleep cycle. But if this process is interrupted, like when you wake up in the middle of a deep sleep cycle, you may feel groggy and confused for 30 minutes or more after waking. This shows how complicated and carefully planned the transition from sleep to wakefulness is. The advantages of this nightly restoration cycle go well beyond just feeling rested. New research keeps showing how important sleep is to almost every part of human health and performance. Getting enough sleep helps the brain work properly, keeps emotions in check, strengthens the immune system, keeps the heart healthy, helps the body recover, and keeps the metabolism going. People who consistently get good sleep have better cognitive performance, more stable moods, a stronger immune system, better weight management, and even longer lives than people who don't get enough sleep. Sleep changes how your genes are expressed, which means which genes are turned on or off in different cells in your body. Sleep affects how your cells fix DNA damage that builds up while you're awake. Your body reacts to stress, handles emotions, and makes and keeps relationships differently when you sleep. Sleep research keeps showing links between how well we sleep and almost every part of our health that we can measure. Sleep has an effect on hormone levels, the immune system, metabolism, heart health, mental health, cognitive performance, and even the process of aging. People who get enough sleep make better choices, are more creative and innovative, have better relationships, and do more good things for their communities. Sleep is not only important for our own health, but it is also necessary for society to work properly. People who get enough sleep are more likely to be kind and helpful, less likely to do risky or antisocial things, and better able to help their families, workplaces, and communities. The quality of our sleep as a group has a direct impact on the quality of our civilization. The study of sleep also gives us interesting information about how humans evolved and where we fit into the natural world. Humans are one of the most unusual animals when it comes to sleeping. We sleep less than most other primates, but a larger percentage of our sleep is REM sleep. We are one of the few mammals that can choose not to sleep, and we've made artificial environments that can mess with our natural sleep patterns. These distinctive characteristics of human sleep may have been pivotal to our evolutionary success. The capacity to prolong wakefulness, experience enhanced REM sleep for learning and memory consolidation, and synchronize sleep patterns socially may have conferred advantages to our ancestors in survival, collaboration, and cultural advancement. But the way we live today often goes against the way we used to sleep. Artificial light, irregular schedules, electronic devices, and a society that never sleeps can all mess up the natural rhythms that have helped people sleep well for thousands of years. As we build more and more complicated technological environments, it becomes more and more important to understand these disruptions and find ways to work with our natural biology instead of against it. There are many exciting things that could happen in sleep research in the future. Scientists are coming up with new ways to measure and understand sleep. For example, they are using wearable devices to track sleep stages and brain imaging techniques to show how different sleep processes work in the brain. We're learning how to help people get better sleep by using light and other things in their environment, and we're also learning how to treat sleep disorders more effectively. Studies on the link between sleep and aging are showing that getting enough sleep may be one of the best ways to stay healthy and full of energy throughout your life. Researchers have found that good sleep habits are one of the things that all centenarians, people who live to be 100 or older, have in common. As we get closer to the end of our journey through the world of sleep, it's worth noting how amazing it is that this whole complicated process happens on its own every night of your life. You don't have to think about lowering your body temperature, making more growth hormone, turning on your glymphatic system, or putting your memories together. Your body knows how to do all of this and more because of programs that have been written into your DNA over millions of years of evolution. Even though sleep is automatic, it is also very sensitive to what you do and where you are. There are many things that can affect the quality of your sleep. For example, what you eat and when you eat it, how much you exercise and when you exercise, how you deal with stress during the day, how you set up your evening routine, the temperature and lighting in your bedroom, the comfort of your mattress and pillows, and even the thoughts you choose to think as you get ready for bed. One of the best things you can do for your health and well-being is to make sure you have a cool, dark, quiet place to sleep, a regular bedtime routine, limited screen time before bed, comfortable bedding, and a mindset of relaxation and gratitude. These aren't just lifestyle choices, they're ways to work with your body to make one of its most important processes work better. Getting ready for bed at night can be a source of pleasure and mindfulness in and of itself. Taking time to relax, think about what happened during the day, be thankful for the simple miracle of being aware, and get your body and mind ready for the amazing journey of healing that is about to begin can turn bedtime from a necessary break in your daily life into a cherished time of renewal. As you get ready to go to sleep tonight, you can enjoy the amazing biological symphony that is about to start. Your master clock is already controlling the release of melatonin, the gradual cooling of your core temperature, and the slowing down of your heart rate. Your brain is getting ready to go through the stages of NREM sleep, which are very restorative and cleansing, and then REM sleep, which is when you have creative thoughts. Your immune system is getting ready to protect and renew itself while you sleep. Your muscles are getting ready to let go of the stress of the day and fix themselves at night. Your skin is getting ready to make more collagen and new cells. Your liver is getting ready to do its job of detoxifying and keeping your metabolism in check. Every part of your body works together to make this change from being awake to sleeping at night. During the day, your brain is in charge of your conscious experience. At night, it becomes a master restorer, integrator, and healer. Your body will go from being active and responsive to being in a state of deep repair and renewal. When you close your eyes and start to fall asleep, remember that you're not just losing consciousness. You're entering one of the most active, important, and interesting states your body and brain will ever be in. You're joining the billions of other people around the world who are letting their bodies do this old ritual of healing right now. You're taking part in a process that links you to all people who have ever lived, to our evolutionary ancestors, and to the basic rhythms of life on Earth. The circadian patterns that control your sleep are the same ones that have controlled life for billions of years. They connect you to the rotation of our planet and the cycle of day and night that has shaped all life on Earth. Sleep well, knowing that your body is working perfectly while you sleep to restore, fix, and get you ready for tomorrow's adventures. When you wake up in the morning, you'll not only be well rested, but you'll also be completely refreshed. Your brain will be cleaner, your immune system will be stronger, your memories will be integrated, your tissues will be repaired, and your body will be ready for anything that comes your way. Sleep is more than just something you need to do. It's part of the natural rhythm of life, and a nightly reminder of how connected we are to the world and to each other. As you fall asleep tonight, you're taking part in one of the most common human experiences. You are connected to everyone else who has ever closed their eyes and trusted their body's ancient wisdom to keep them safe while they slept. Thank you for spending this quiet hour of discovery with me. Sweet dreams. Until we see each other again in the evening, I hope you have a deep, restful sleep filled with the gentle wisdom of your body's ancient knowledge. When you wake up tomorrow, I hope you feel truly refreshed and have a deeper appreciation for the amazing gift of sleep and the incredible beauty and complexity of the human body at rest. Now that you're comfortable, take a moment to pay attention to how you're breathing. Don't change it, just watch. Feel your chest rise and fall gently, your ribs expand softly, and the quiet pause between each breath in and out. The rhythm you're feeling right now is the same one that has been with you since you were born and is still with you now in this peaceful moment. We don't think about it very often because it's such a steady, dependable rhythm. But underneath this seeming simplicity is one of the most complex biological systems on Earth. Your respiratory system is like a master conductor leading an invisible orchestra. It keeps dozens of muscles, millions of tiny air sacs, and a complicated network of blood vessels in perfect harmony. Tonight, we'll learn about how this system changes and adapts as you go from being busy and alert during the day to sleeping deeply at night. We'll look at how your breath becomes your body's lullaby, how the air you breathe becomes the basis for dreams, and how this ancient rhythm connects you to every living thing that has ever breathed on this planet. Let's start our journey in the most obvious place, your mouth and nose, which are the openings through which life enters your body. Something very magical happens when you breathe in through your nose. The air doesn't just flow straight down into your lungs like water through a pipe. Instead, it goes on a carefully planned journey to get ready. Your nostrils are the first line of defense, keeping out dust and particles that are too big to fit in your delicate lung tissue. The cilia in your nose are tiny hairs that move like plants in water. They catch debris and move it away from your airways. But the nose does something even more amazing. It controls the temperature of your body. The turbinates in your nasal cavity are curved passages that create gentle turbulence that makes the air swirl and mix. This warms the air to body temperature and adds just the right amount of moisture. The air that goes into your throat has been changed from whatever temperature and humidity it was outside to a perfect 37 degrees Celsius with 100% humidity. Your nose gives each breath a warm, soft hug before sending it deeper into your body. The way your nasal passages are built is very smart for this conditioning process. 3 shelf-like projections called turbinates stick out from the sides of your nasal cavity. They make a maze-like path that lets air touch the warm, moist surfaces of your nasal lining as much as possible. These surfaces are full of blood vessels that open and close to control heat transfer, as well as cells that make mucus to keep the humidity levels just right. If you breathe through your mouth, this preparation is mostly skipped. When you breathe through your mouth while you sleep, the air gets to your lungs cooler and drier. This is why you might wake up with a dry throat. The nose is the best way for your body to breathe slowly and deeply while you sleep and rest. Notice how your breathing naturally changes to nasal breathing as you relax, as if your body knows exactly what it needs to get the best rest. There are also special nerve endings in the nasal cavity that can pick up chemical signals in the air, which helps you smell. While you sleep, your conscious awareness of smells goes down, but these receptors keep an eye on things and are ready to tell your brain about any smells that could be dangerous, like smoke or gas. This old way of protecting you makes sure that your respiratory system keeps an eye on your safety even when you're sound asleep. The air goes down through your pharynx, which is a shared highway where the paths for breathing and swallowing meet for a short time. This is where your body does one of its most well-timed dances. Your epiglottis is a small flap of tissue that works like a very advanced traffic controller. It sends air to your lungs and food to your stomach at the right time. This coordination gets even better while you sleep, making sure that the gentle flow of breath keeps going even as other systems slow down. Lymphoid tissue, which is made up of groups of immune cells, lines the pharynx. This is called Waldeyer's ring. Your tonsils and adenoids are two of the tissues that make up the first line of defense against germs that are in the air. These guardians work quietly to get rid of any foreign substances that may have been breathed in during the day while you sleep, when your immune system is especially busy repairing and maintaining itself. Then the air goes through your larynx, which is where your vocal cords are. These cords vibrate to make speech and song when you're awake, but they relax and become still when you go to sleep. The glottis is the space between them that opens up more to let air flow more freely and quietly. As you fall asleep, your body literally tunes itself for rest by making your breathing quieter. This helps you make the peaceful transition into dreams without any sounds that might wake you up. The vocal cords are amazing structures that can vibrate at frequencies from about 80 Hz in deep male voices to over 1000 Hz in the highest soprano notes. But when they sleep, they become passive gatekeepers, and their main job changes from making sound to keeping the best airflow resistance. As you go through the stages of sleep, the muscles that control the tension of your vocal cords relax more and more. This makes it easier for you to breathe while you sleep. Now we come to your trachea, which is also known as your windpipe. It is a remarkable tube that is about the same width as your thumb and the same length as your hand. There are C-shaped rings of cartilage that support the trachea and keep it open even when you're lying down, and gravity pulls on your tissues in a different way. These rings are a great example of how evolution works. They're strong enough to keep from breaking, but they're also flexible enough to bend when you turn your head or change positions while you sleep. These cartilage rings are shaped like a C for a reason. The open part of the C faces your esophagus, which lets the trachea expand a little when you swallow big pieces of food. This design stops the stiff cartilage from getting in the way of food going down your throat, but it still gives your airway the support it needs to stay open while you breathe. Millions of tiny hairs called cilia line the walls of your trachea and beat in waves about 1,000 times a minute. They only go up toward your mouth, taking away any particles or moisture that shouldn't be in your lungs. This escalator goes up all the time, even when you're sleeping deeply. It keeps your airways clear and healthy by cleaning them all the time. It's like having a team of housekeepers working the night shift to keep everything clean while you sleep. Goblet cells, which make mucus, are between the ciliated cells. This mucus isn't just annoying, it's a carefully made biological solution that traps particles, has antimicrobial properties, and is the perfect medium for ciliary action. The makeup of this mucus changes a little bit throughout the day and night. It gets a little thinner while you sleep, so that it can be cleared more easily while still keeping its protective properties. The trachea goes down into your chest and meets a point called the carina, where it splits into two main bronchi, one going to each lung Respiratory scientists call this branching the bronchial tree, but it might be better to call it an inverted tree because it starts with one trunk and splits into smaller and smaller parts. The left main bronchus is a little longer and more angled than the right one. This is because your heart is in the middle of your chest cavity, a little to the left. This asymmetry is one of those beautiful biological compromises that lets different organ systems live together in the small space of your torso. The carina is very sensitive to touch because it has some of the most responsive nerve endings in your whole respiratory system. This sensitivity protects you by making you cough right away and strongly if something foreign touches this important area. This protective response stays in place while you sleep, but the level at which it starts may be raised a little to keep you from waking up from small annoyances. The main bronchus splits into lobar bronchi. There are 3 on the right side for the 3 lobes of your right lung, and 2 on the left side for the 2 lobes of your left lung. These split into segmental bronchi, then subsegmental bronchi, and keep branching out like a tree's branches reaching for the sun. This bronchial tree splits into about 23 branches, making a path from your trachea to every part of your lung tissue. Each division roughly doubles the total cross-sectional area of the airways. By the time air gets to the smallest branches, it's moving very slowly, which gives the gas exchange plenty of time to happen. These airways change in character as they get smaller. The bigger bronchi are made stronger by cartilage and lined with the same ciliated cells that keep your trachea clean. But as the passages get smaller, the cartilage is replaced by smooth muscle, and the cleaning cilia slowly fade away. Bronchioles are the smaller airways that your body uses to control airflow very precisely. They use tiny muscles to change the size of each passage based on what your body needs. The smooth muscle in your bronchioles is controlled by your autonomic nervous system, which gets signals from your brain and chemicals in your blood. Your sympathetic nervous system can relax these muscles while you're awake, especially when you're stressed or exercising. This makes the airways wider, which lets more air flow through. These bronchioles change slightly as you fall asleep. As you breathe deeper and slower, the smooth muscles relax a little, making it easier for air to flow. Your sympathetic nervous system, which controls the fight or flight response, slowly loses its grip on these muscles. At the same time, your parasympathetic nervous system, which controls rest and digestion, starts to take more control. This change is one of the reasons why breathing becomes so much easier and calmer as you fall asleep. The bronchioles keep splitting until they reach the terminal bronchioles, which are the last airways that don't take part in gas exchange. These small tubes, which are hard to see with the naked eye, mark the boundary between the parts of your respiratory system that only conduct air and the parts that exchange gas. After these come the respiratory bronchioles, where the real magic of breathing starts. These little tubes are full of small air sacs called alveoli, which look like little bulbs on the branches of a Christmas tree. Finally, this is where the air you've breathed goes, the place where your respiratory and circulatory systems meet. Your alveoli are probably the most amazing parts of your body. There are about 300 to 500 million of these tiny air sacs in each lung. They are smaller than the period at the end of this sentence, but when you put them all together, they make a surface area about the size of a tennis court. About 70 square meters of gas-exchanging surface, folded and packed into the space of your 2 lungs. If you could lay out all of your alveoli, they would cover almost half of a basketball court, but they fit comfortably in your chest cavity. The way alveoli are built is a great example of biological engineering. The shape of each alveolus is roughly spherical, which gives it the most surface area for its volume. The walls are very thin, like a soap bubble, but they are strong enough to handle the constant expansion and contraction of breathing for your whole life. The walls are mostly made up of 2 types of cells. Type 1 pneumocytes, which make the thin barrier for gas exchange, and type 2 pneumocytes, which make surfactant and can change into type 1 cells when they need to be repaired. Around each alveolus is a thick network of capillaries, which are the smallest blood vessels in your body. Red blood cells have to squeeze through these capillaries in a single file, which makes sure that each cell touches the alveolar wall closely. The wall that separates the air in your alveoli from the blood in these capillaries is very thin, only about 0.5 micrometers thick. which is about 200 times thinner than a human hair. The respiratory membrane is a thin barrier where one of the most important exchanges in life takes place. Oxygen from the air you breathe goes through this membrane and into your blood. Carbon dioxide, which is a waste product of cellular metabolism, goes the other way and is exhaled. You don't have to do anything to make this exchange happen. Instead, it uses the simple physics of diffusion, which says that molecules naturally move from places where there are a lot of them to places where there aren't as many. Because the air in your alveoli has more oxygen than your blood, oxygen naturally moves into your blood. Your blood, on the other hand, has more carbon dioxide than the air in your alveoli, so carbon dioxide naturally flows out. Like a perfectly balanced seesaw that never stops moving, this system works all the time without anyone having to think about it. This exchange works even better in some ways while you sleep. Your metabolism slows down by about 10 to 15%, which means your cells need less oxygen and make less carbon dioxide. Your breathing naturally slows down and gets deeper, giving each alveolus more time to fully exchange gases. When your whole respiratory system relaxes, it creates the best conditions for this basic life process to happen with the least amount of energy use. The best way to match ventilation and perfusion, which is the delivery of air and blood to each alveolus, also improves the efficiency of gas exchange. Your body has complex ways of changing the flow of blood to different parts of your lungs depending on how well they are being ventilated. Blood flow automatically goes to areas that get more air, and blood flow goes to other areas that don't get enough air. Local chemical signals cause this matching. For example, when oxygen levels drop in a certain area, the blood vessels around it constrict, sending blood to areas with better ventilation. Hemoglobin, the iron-rich protein in your red blood cells, picks up the oxygen that gets into your blood right away. Your blood has about 280 million hemoglobin molecules per red blood cell, and each hemoglobin molecule can carry up to 4 oxygen molecules. Your blood can carry a lot of oxygen because it has about 25 trillion red blood cells. It's like having a fleet of tiny delivery trucks, each one able to bring valuable goods to every cell in your body. Hemoglobin is a great molecule that has evolved perfectly for its job of carrying oxygen. It shows what is known as cooperative binding. When one oxygen molecule attaches, it makes it easier for the next one to do the same, and so on. In other words, hemoglobin easily picks up oxygen in the high oxygen environment of your lungs and easily releases it where it's needed in the lower oxygen environment of your tissues. This system works very well when you sleep because your body's need for oxygen is lower. It makes sure that enough oxygen gets to your body with as little work as possible on your heart. But let's take a step back from these tiny wonders and look at the bigger picture of breathing. The muscles that work together to change the pressure in your lungs so that air can flow in and out. The diaphragm, a large muscle that makes up the floor of your chest cavity, is the star of this orchestra. When you stand up and are awake, your diaphragm is high in your chest and curves up like an upside-down bowl under your lungs. The diaphragm is different from your other muscles in a number of ways. You can consciously hold your breath or breathe deeply, so you have some control over it. However, it also works automatically without any conscious thought. This dual control system makes sure that breathing can keep going while you sleep, but it also lets you take over when you need to. The muscle fibers in the diaphragm are also made to last, with a lot of mitochondria and blood flow that lets them work all the time without getting tired. When your diaphragm contracts, it flattens and moves down, just like when you push down on the top of a balloon. This makes your chest cavity bigger and makes a partial vacuum that pulls air into your lungs. The best thing about this system is that it doesn't require any conscious effort or thought. When you're awake, your brainstem sends signals to your diaphragm about 12 to 20 times per minute. This rate naturally slows down as you fall asleep. As you sleep deeper, your diaphragm moves more clearly and effectively. The muscle relaxes more fully between breaths, which lets each contraction go deeper. This is why people who are asleep seem to breathe more deeply. Their diaphragms are working better because they aren't as tense and aren't breathing as shallowly as they do when they are awake. Your diaphragm doesn't work by itself. The intercostal muscles, which are small muscles that run between your ribs, help it. The external intercostals help lift your ribs up and out when you breathe in, and the internal intercostals can help you breathe out forcefully. However, when you breathe quietly, like when you sleep, exhaling is mostly passive, relying on the natural elasticity of your lungs and chest wall to recoil. There are two layers of intercostal muscles. The external intercostals are angled down and forward, while the internal intercostals are angled down and back. This setup lets them have opposite effects on how the ribs move. For example, during inspiration, the external intercostals lift the ribs, and during forced expiration, the internal intercostals pull them down. When you sleep, the external intercostals work gently with the diaphragm, but the internal intercostals don't do much. During sleep, a lot of the extra breathing muscles that you might use when you're stressed or working out hard stop working. The muscles in your neck that can lift your upper ribs, the muscles in your back that can expand your chest cavity, and the abdominal muscles that can help you breathe out forcefully all relax into rest. This leaves the diaphragm and basic intercostal muscles to do the work. This simplification is one of the things that makes breathing while you sleep so effective and helpful. Your lungs are amazing organs that can expand and contract. Healthy lungs want to collapse inward because of surface tension, unlike balloons, which don't stretch. The pleural space, which is a thin, fluid-filled space between the lung tissue and the chest wall, stops them from doing so. There are only a few milliliters of pleural fluid in this space. It works like a thin layer of water between two sheets of glass. The fluid makes the surface tension that keeps the lungs attached to the chest wall. This means that when your chest expands, your lungs have to expand too. The pleural space is actually a potential space. Normally, the surface of the lungs and the wall of the chest are so close together that there isn't much room between them. The pleural fluid does a lot of things. It helps the lungs and chest wall move smoothly by providing lubrication. It creates the surface tension that connects the two movements, and it helps to balance out pressure differences that might happen between different parts of the lung. The pleural space also acts as a shock absorber and lets your lungs move smoothly against your chest wall when you breathe. When you sleep, your breathing gets deeper and more regular, which makes this gliding action especially smooth and effective. Cells lining the pleural space make pleural fluid all the time, which keeps this important movement well lubricated. A substance called surfactant is very important for making breathing easy in your lung tissue. Surfactant is made by special cells in your alveoli. It works like a biological soap by lowering surface tension and keeping the alveoli from fully collapsing when you breathe out. It would be very hard to re-expand collapsed alveoli with every breath if there were no surfactant. Think about how hard it would be to blow up a new balloon with every breath. Surfactant is a thin film made up of phospholipids, proteins, and other molecules that covers the inside of each alveolus. As the alveolus expands and contracts, this film changes its properties in real time, giving each point in the breathing cycle the right amount of surface tension reduction. As the alveolus expands during inspiration, the surfactant film spreads out and makes it less effective at reducing surface tension. When you breathe out, the alveolus gets smaller, which makes the surfactant molecules pack more closely together and lower the surface tension even more, which keeps the alveolus from collapsing. While you sleep, your body keeps making surfactant at the right levels, which keeps your alveoli properly inflated and ready for gas exchange. This is one reason why getting enough sleep is so important for your lungs. It helps them keep their structure and get ready for the activities of the day. During certain stages of sleep, type 2 pneumocytes that make surfactant are especially active. This helps to restore the body. Your brainstem has groups of neurons called respiratory centers that control your breathing. These centers work without you knowing it, changing the speed and depth of your breathing based on a steady stream of chemical information from your blood and cerebrospinal fluid. A lot of people think that oxygen levels are what keep this system going, but it's actually carbon dioxide levels and blood pH. There are two main parts of your brainstem where the centers that control breathing are located: the medulla oblongata and the pons. The medulla has the main rhythm generator, which is a group of neurons that makes the basic breathing pattern. This is where the basic urge to breathe comes from. It works like a biological pacemaker that never stops working. The pons has neurons that change this basic rhythm, making the transitions between breathing in and out smoother and changing the pattern based on different inputs. Chemoreceptors, which are specialized sensors, are always checking the chemical makeup of your blood. They are found in your brainstem and in the big arteries in your neck. These sensors tell the respiratory centers to speed up and deepen your breathing when the level of carbon dioxide in your blood rises, which means that your cells are making more waste than you're breathing out. When the amount of carbon dioxide in the air goes down, breathing naturally slows down and becomes shallower. This system is very sensitive. When you're awake, a change in blood carbon dioxide of only 3 to 5% can double your breathing rate. This sensitivity stays the same while you sleep, but it works from a different baseline. Your body's slower metabolism means it makes less carbon dioxide. To keep levels normal, the respiratory centers adjust by making you breathe more slowly and deeply. There are some really interesting changes in how your body controls breathing when you go from being awake to sleeping. During REM sleep, the parts of the brain that control voluntary muscle movement become mostly inactive. This means you can't consciously control your breathing anymore. You become totally reliant on the automatic control systems in your brainstem. This change needs a lot of accuracy. The automatic systems have to keep the air flowing without the help of conscious control. During REM sleep, when your most vivid dreams happen, your breathing can become irregular and change, sometimes even reflecting what you're dreaming about. If you dream that you're running, you might breathe faster. If you have dream anxiety, you might start breathing quickly and shallowly. But even when these changes happen, the basic gas exchange keeps working well, showing how strong your respiratory system is. Your respiratory and cardiovascular systems work together in a very elegant way while you sleep. As you breathe more slowly and deeply, your heart rate also goes down, but the timing is very precise. When you breathe in, your heart rate goes up a little bit because the lungs are putting less pressure on the heart. Your heart rate goes down a little when you breathe out. Respiratory sinus arrhythmia is a subtle rhythm that shows that your autonomic nervous system is working well and is healthy. Heart rate variability with breathing is more noticeable when you sleep, especially in the deeper stages. It's thought to be a sign of a healthy autonomic balance, which is when your sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems work together well. Young, healthy people usually have more respiratory sinus arrhythmia, but this variability tends to go down with age and in some diseases. Your blood pressure also changes in a rhythmic way when you breathe while you sleep. With each breath in, blood pressure goes down a little bit because blood pools in the expanded lungs. With each breath out, blood pressure goes back to normal. These gentle changes in blood pressure, along with the overall drop in blood pressure during sleep, make the best conditions for your body's tissues to heal and restore themselves. The breathing patterns of sleep are good for your lymphatic system, which is your body's drainage and immune network. When you breathe deeply while you sleep, the gentle, regular changes in pressure help move lymphatic fluid through its vessels. This clears metabolic waste and boosts immune function. While you sleep, the lymphatic vessels in your lungs work extra hard to get rid of any particles or germs that you may have breathed in while you were awake. It's especially interesting to see how breathing changes during different stages of sleep. Your breathing stays pretty steady during light sleep, but it starts to slow down. As you fall into a deep sleep, your breathing becomes the most regular and effective. You take long, slow breaths that help you get rid of carbon dioxide while using the least amount of energy. During the deeper stages of sleep, the respiratory rate may drop to as low as 8 to 10 breaths per minute. This is much lower than the 12 to 20 breaths per minute that happen when you are awake. During REM sleep, breathing patterns change more often and sometimes look like waking patterns. However, the respiratory system is very adaptable, so gas exchange stays good. Researchers think that the changes in breathing during REM sleep are linked to the brain's high level of activity during this stage of sleep. Sometimes the way you breathe can show how you feel in your dreams. Your breathing system also helps keep your body temperature stable while you sleep. When you breathe in, the air warms up and adds moisture to it, which helps keep your core body temperature stable. When you breathe out, the water in your lungs evaporates, which cools you down. When you sleep, your body's temperature naturally drops, which makes these respiratory contributions to temperature control more noticeable. Your throat, tongue, and soft palate are all muscles in your upper airway that change a lot while you sleep. As you go into deeper sleep, these muscles that help keep your airway open during the day relax on their own. For most people, this relaxation happens slowly and doesn't make it hard to breathe. However, it does explain why some people snore. When air passes by, the relaxed tissues can vibrate. During this muscle relaxation, your body has developed several ways to keep your airways from collapsing. When you breathe in, the negative pressure pulls the walls outward, which helps keep the airway stable. Also, sensors in your upper airway can tell when it is getting narrower and cause your muscles to contract automatically to keep it open. However, this protective mechanism works below the level of consciousness. Your body position while you sleep has a big effect on how you breathe. When you lie on your back, gravity pulls your tongue and soft tissues back, which could make your airways smaller. When you lie on your side, gravity has less of an effect, which can make breathing quieter and more efficient. A lot of people naturally change positions while they sleep, and one reason for this is that their breathing changes slightly. Environmental factors can have small effects on how you breathe while you sleep. Your nasal passages don't have to warm and moisten the air as much when it's cool and humid, which could make breathing easier. Clean air makes it easier for your respiratory system to filter and clean itself. The height at which you sleep can also affect how your lungs work. For example, sleeping at higher altitudes can cause your breathing patterns to change temporarily. Your immune system and respiratory system work together a lot, especially when you sleep. The cilia that line your airways work the hardest when you sleep, getting rid of germs and other particles. Your alveolar macrophages, which are specialized immune cells in your air sacs, are always on the lookout for things that don't belong there. Your throat and nasal passages have a lot of lymphoid tissue that works hard while you sleep to process antigens and keep your immune system ready. As we get older, our respiratory physiology changes slowly, but the system's basic efficiency during sleep stays very high throughout our lives. The chest wall may get a little stiffer, and the lung tissue may lose some of its elasticity, but the systems that control breathing adjust to keep gas exchange going while you sleep. Changes in breathing that come with age are easier to see when you're awake and active than when you're sleeping and breathing normally. Controlling your body temperature is also very important for breathing while you sleep. As your body temperature drops naturally as you fall asleep, different parts of your respiratory system change to match. The airways get a little narrower because the body doesn't make as much metabolic heat, but this is made up for by the fact that sleep doesn't use as much energy. Your blood vessels widen a little, which helps blood flow and makes it easier for oxygen to get to your body, even if your heart rate is slower. The amazing thing about all these complicated processes is that they work perfectly without you even knowing it. As you listen to these words tonight, your respiratory system is coordinating millions of cellular activities, adjusting muscle tensions, monitoring blood chemistry, and keeping the delicate balance that keeps life going. All of this is happening while your conscious mind rests and restores. There are both obvious and subtle ways that your breathing connects you to the rest of the world. Atoms that were once part of other living things are in every breath you take. The oxygen you breathe in may have come from a tree that exhaled it earlier today, from algae in the ocean, or from tiny phytoplankton that are floating in the ocean. This is how breathing connects you to the global respiratory cycle that connects all life on Earth. When you breathe out carbon dioxide, it doesn't just go away. It becomes part of the cycle that plants use to make food through photosynthesis. Eventually, it becomes part of new growth and new life. Your breathing at night is part of exchanges that happen all over the world, linking your sleep to the huge web of life that surrounds our planet. Think about the long process of evolution that led to this amazing respiratory system. Your very first ancestors were simple single-celled organisms that got their oxygen from the water around them. As life got more complicated, specialized systems developed to get oxygen to cells that weren't in direct contact with the outside world anymore. The lungs, with their complex branching patterns and tiny air sacs, are the result of millions of years of evolution. Your respiratory system is the result of many changes that were tested by the needs of survival and reproduction. Your vocal cords are in the right place, your surfactant is made up of the right things, and your brainstem has very advanced control systems. All of these are examples of biological problems that were solved over long periods of time through the process of natural selection. As we get closer to the end of our tour of your respiratory system, take a moment to appreciate the quiet miracle that is happening inside you right now. Your diaphragm is gently contracting and relaxing. Your alveoli are exchanging gases with tiny amounts of precision. Your blood is carrying oxygen to every cell in your body, and your brainstem is controlling it all with perfect timing. This is not happening because you are thinking about it. It is happening because you are part of a biological lineage that goes back billions of years to the first organisms that learned how to get energy from the air. One of the most elegant changes in human physiology is the switch from breathing while awake to breathing while asleep. When you sleep, your body doesn't just keep the same breathing pattern, it makes everything work better for rest and recovery. The rate slows down, the depth goes up, the muscles work less, and the gas exchange gets better. It seems like your respiratory system has its own sleep mode that is perfectly made to help with the healing processes that happen while you sleep. As you fall asleep tonight, you can be sure that your respiratory system will keep doing its job. Your lungs will keep their gentle rhythm even when your mind is dreaming or sleeping deeply and peacefully. Your diaphragm will go up and down hundreds of times. Your alveoli will move thousands of liters of air, and your blood will move around your body, bringing oxygen to every part of it. This rhythm that helps you fall asleep is the same one that has kept you going through every moment of your life. It linked you to your mother before you were born, told her you were coming with your first breath, and has been with you through every experience since. It will keep doing its job while you sleep tonight, and when you wake up tomorrow, it will be there to greet you and be ready to help with whatever new adventures the day may bring. Breathing is both the basic rhythm and the melody that carries everything else in the grand symphony of your body's functions. It's the steady beat of the drum that keeps your heart in time, the soft wave that rocks your nervous system to sleep, and the invisible thread that connects you to everything that is alive on Earth. So as you get more comfortable tonight, let your breathing lead you to sleep. Don't try to control it or change it. Just let it carry you, as it has carried many generations before you, into the deep, healing sleep. Have faith in the ancient knowledge of your respiratory system, which has been honed over millions of years of evolution, to keep you alive through the night and safely bring you to tomorrow's awakening. Sweet dreams. May your breathing be the soft lullaby that helps you sleep soundly all night. Your lungs, diaphragm, alveoli, and all the other parts of your respiratory system will keep a close eye on you, making sure that every breath helps you rest and heal. Sleep well, knowing that one of nature's most perfect and reliable systems is holding you up and breathing you gently through the peaceful hours of the night.